It's about as far removed from a farmer's field as you can imagine. But in a sterile dish in a Maastricht lab, they're growing beef. These are cells taken from a cow, and they're making burgers.
Have you tasted this?
Yeah, it tastes like meat.
Scale up the process, and it could feed the planet's appetite for meat, but with a fraction of the greenhouse gases of living cattle.
This is a way to create exactly the same tissue that we know, but without the cow. At least not so many cows. So that will reduce the environmental impact, and it will allow us with much less resources to grow much more meat. That's the whole point, to satisfy the craving of the hardcore meat eater for meat.
Beef has a huge carbon footprint. A small 100-gram burger results in up to 105 kilograms of greenhouse gas. The same amount of lamb produces just 27 kilograms. Pork and chicken are far lower. And veggie protein sources like peas and pulses produce just 300 grams. They barely figure. A former government chief scientist has told Sky News he's stopped eating beef and is giving up lamb. And we have a moral imperative to do the same.
There's no question we need to do it. One of the issues is not just our behaviour here in Britain, it's the example we set to others. So my behaviour has to reflect what I expect from everybody.
The UK's cattle and sheep produce around 21 million tonnes of greenhouse gases every year, a natural byproduct of their digestion.
But the government's own advisors on climate change shy away from calling on us to give up meat altogether. They say that while cutting back would certainly reduce Britain's carbon footprint, they believe that wouldn't be public support for the huge behaviour change required.
Meat consumption in the UK has fallen 3% over 20 years, but beef is holding steady. For many, it's hard to give up.
I think it's partly like having grown up with it. So hamburgers, you know, a steak was always like a special occasion sort of thing, you know, it was like a decent fancy meal.
What's in your lunch?
Salt beef. Salt beef and gherkin. That's because I'm not quite there yet, and I will admit that.
Time for tougher action, says this behavioural economist. A tax.
In the UK, as I said, beef consumption would need to be 20% more expensive, milk consumption 10 to 15% more expensive, then just to include the climate damages. What is clear is providing information is not alone, so we really have to think about more progressive policies that would help the consumer make the right choice.
The government's advisors conclude that planting trees could offset greenhouse gases from livestock and allow us to meet international commitments on global warming. But other scientists argue that just dodges the problem and that beef, however tasty, should be off the menu. Thomas Moore, Sky News.